Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Thanks a lot, Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Rich Walsh, Gene Collier will join me in just a few moments. Give me a call tonight. Give us a call tonight. 412-575-2600 is the number. You can always tweet me at Richie Walsh. I'll be more than happy to answer your tweets tonight on this show. Big news tonight. It just came out about an hour ago. Ryan Shazier spoke publicly for the first time tonight, speaking with his teammate on Roosevelt Nick's podcast. He said he plans to play football again, and his rehab is progressing. He's making progress every single day, and he's given it 1,000 times, is what he said, more than playing football. He's given it all that he has, and he plans to be a Hall of Famer. So it sounds like he's optimistic. I know we've seen him stand. We've seen him stand up at Penguins games. We saw the pictures when he was released from the hospital. He's doing rehab 2 hours a day for 5 days a week, and he said things are going well. And Gene, one of the things that he did say in the podcast, he said he didn't realize how bad it was. He thought he was going to be at the game in December on Christmas, and then he started to realize, and he really has an appreciation. If you listen to the entire podcast, which is about 28 minutes, he really has an appreciation for disabled people now and how hard it is to even get up an incline. So he had a lot of good things to say, and the one good thing is he's optimistic, and he says he trusts the process.
Well, I mean, that's great news. You know, no one really knew which direction this was going to go with Ryan Shazier. Everyone, of course, very hopeful. And it looks like, you know, he's making great progress. Everybody says that, not just him. So, I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful news.
Yeah, and obviously we know that he still has a long way to go. But the fact that he's coming out and publicly saying that he is making progress, he's standing, he's on a walking program, and his progress is, you know, the therapist said they've never seen progress like this from any other patient. But the guy is a world-class athlete, so you would expect that from someone like that.
Very special guy, physically, athletically, right.
And the fact that he still has hope that he's going to be a Hall of Famer, he has goals still that he has set, and he's not given up on his dream. So I know, we heard Art Rooney and Kevin Colbert and all those guys say that he's going to be a part of this organization next year, whether it's on the football field or in the front office or coaching or something, that he's going to be a part of the football team moving forward. Yeah,
everyone who's come into contact with Ryan Shazier during this difficult time, and I am not one of them, but everyone who has nothing but really inspirational things to say about the way he is inspiring other people. So that has to be an indication that his attitude about it has been tremendous, and it's not a surprise.
And today actually is the start of franchising in the NFL. No franchise news with Le'Veon Bell. We kind of expect him to get franchised at some point. I would imagine, Ed, they're optimistic that a long-term deal will happen. At least the Steelers are hopeful, and he said he's hopeful. But you also remember Kevin Colbert said last week in that I was involved in that meeting with a handful of reporters. Ed Bichette was there, where he said that, hey, it's a different landscape this year, and the playing field is different. I think it was his quote, meaning that the Steelers have salary cap issues. I don't know if they'll be able to offer him the same contract that they offered him last year, and already Le'Veon Bell's on record saying he wants more than that contract.
Yeah, I really don't believe anything Le'Veon Bell says regarding his contract. I mean, he said this kind of stuff last year, got a good offer, his agent wanted to take it, he didn't want to take it. You know, he prefers to, you know, kind of grease these negotiations through his rap songs and such. That's perfectly fine. But a lot of the things that he says turn out not to be true. So until something happens, he's either tagged or signed. You know, I'm not really interested in what he has to say.
Yeah, my guess is that he's going to be tagged. And you know what? If I'm the Steelers, I'm not overpaying for a guy. He might be the best running back in the NFL, but I can get a guy that might be second or third best that's $10 million cheaper. And I think, you know, obviously the Steelers organization is a smart organization. Maybe they'll franchise him this year, and I think that they will. I think that's the mindset over there. But, you know, moving forward, they might draft someone. They might sign someone else and just let them walk. next year. I think that's the move you have to make if you're the Steelers, if he's asking too much money. He wants to be paid like a running back and a receiver.
Yeah, that's one of the things he seemed to be indicating from I guess the Senior Bowl, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, he wanted to kind of set the bar again for running backs in the league. I think he feels running backs generally are undercompensated, and he'd like to rectify that. But I don't know whether I believe any of that.
But wouldn't you take, if you're in salary cap issues, wouldn't you take a LaShawn McCoy for $8 million instead of a Le'Veon Bell for $14 or $15 million?
Well,
I mean, you're talking about two elite running backs, right?
I think Kevin Colbert knows better than I do on that.
Yeah. All right, well, we got to take a break. Back with phone calls and tweets coming up next. Stay right there.